Remember, we want to keep these succinct. Hey,
Hello?
Scrublord, what's up?
Hi.
Can you guys hear me now?
Yep.
Yes, we can hear you now.
Okay, sorry about the technical difficulty before. So I'm not going to disrespect the other guy like he did to me previously. All I'm going to say is this. The only way that works is the Revolution of the Roses in Portugal, my country. It's the only way that would work, is the military would have be on the side of the people. It would be the only way that could offensively do that.
Fair enough. So what's your question, though?
So basically, you guys did a whole video about the whole male loneliness and the bad job, I guess, that the left does to avoid people going to the right of the political spectrum. I wanted to talk specifically, since I don't want to keep you guys a long time. I want to talk specifically about something that happened while this whole conversation was happening. That Anna Kasparian, I guess you guys know from the Young Turks, right?
Mm-hmm.
Did subsequent apparently did a stream, something on Instagram. I don't follow Instagram. Something like an Instagram and like 2 videos. I think one was actually with Vosh. And one thing about that study that people are referencing all over is the actually effect that this male loneliness is having a percentage more not on white people but on everyone else.
Mm-hmm.
Which is interesting. And then they talk about certain aspects, which is the complete alienation of men, basically, like, as how can I put in a good analogy, like basically more coal to the fire.
Mm-hmm.
Right? That would be I guess we would say capitalism in this case, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the position that I want to talk about is that, for example, in my perspective, is that in at least with my perspective in my experiences that I've been living on, is that there is no way to go. Even, let's say, the left did like an amazing better job at like addressing this, there is really no way to go, at least with the way my life has turned out and the life of other people who have the same issues I have. For the record, these are people they're gay, they're queer, they're black, they're Latino. I'm
Mm-hmm.
black, for example. And there's really nowhere for us to go, right? In the country that I'm from, there is a socialist party, and they're very good at helping people need to be. Let's say you're unemployed, or you're a man, you're unemployed, you need help. They're actually pretty good at that, right? And I voted for that to happen. But the issue I seem to be having is that conversation is not about what group of people need. In this case, men, I'm not saying, again, men are the only thing that needs to be addressed in society, right? I'm saying that actually in this case, I'm making the point of like, hey, help me, I'm a black man, please help, right? I'm making the point that there's really nowhere to go, in the sense of like, it seems that this conversation is only like America-centric also, which is very weird to me, because okay, there's a bunch of fascists in America, but who cares? We should be having like this interdimensional left coalition that we don't have. And then when a real issue like this happens, or any other issue really,
Well, and
happens,
here's the thing, though, is I want to ask the question real quick, is that, like, so that study, I'd have to look at its specifics, but was the study American-centric as well?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure the only data
yes.
that they...
So the problem is, I don't know if this particular topic would be relevant in all cases, but I agree with you that, like, I do think there needs to be an international left kind of coalition or movement. I just don't know how you push for that, because the problem is the left is really good at hating itself.
So can I give you, just to prove your point? Let me show you my point. So I vote in Portugal, right?
Mm-hmm.
We have at least 4 left parties, right? And I think almost none of them like each other. think. I think all the leaders kind of like each other, but then when it goes to voting, they have to like make deals and like, hey, do you want to do this? I kind of don't want to. Can we get a deal out of here, right? But the problem I have in specifically voting in Portugal is that like, yeah, there's only like one left party that can win, right? So I'm gonna have to vote for these guys, even though like they are good enough, they're not as great as I wish they would, right? And my whole issue is, specifically attacking this issue, my perspective is, why aren't we just agreeing that, yes, men are lonely, it's one more issue we have to solve, add it to the list, we'll find a solution. Why does it have to be a disagreement on the basis that it is an issue?
Can I tell you why I think that is?
Sure.
So the problem is that I think that there is a number of factors that go into this. For the first off, the idea of an international leftist group is really hard because different countries have different laws and different things, and the UN is spineless. So the issue is that like in a lot of cases, like I would love to have like a larger international leftist coalition help to push like one of the other lefty parties in Portugal to go a particular way. But it's very hard to mount that type of support, even on a internet or like, you know, a larger level, because the problem being is that we're not there and it doesn't really affect us. Well, that's a shitty thing to say, but that's kind of the problem of getting that larger group together. Now, why this larger stuff keeps us separate is because, at least from my perspective, and Zizi can speak to this too, but in a lot of cases, what I think happens is that when you say to everybody in the left, hey, I think we need to do a better job of reaching out to men because it's clear that men are suffering under these things. What some people hear is, yeah, that makes sense. You know, patriarchy hurts everybody. But what other people hear is, my needs don't matter. The problem is that we're making the assumption when we talk about this that everybody's hearing the same statement, and we're not. There are different members of the left who have different needs and different wants. And in some cases, some of these are just bad faith. We saw people online and Twitter who literally thought Bosch was saying, like, women need to take responsibility for their own assault, like their own sexual assaults. Like, that's incredibly bad faith and insane. But that was the place they came from because for them, the idea that they had to do anything to help or take care of men was...
May I...
Well, I gotta let Zizi go. Go,
yeah.
Zizi.
The other part in here, too, is... not everybody has worked through and processed things to a degree where they can adequately start doing this work. If somebody hasn't internalized crappy trauma and then hasn't done the work to go, okay, how do I heal and still heal everybody around me? Then we run into a problem too, where that person isn't going to be capable of even starting to tackle these issues. They're going to be stuck at, oh shit, I'm still inside of my trauma, and that's where I'm stuck right now.
So, if I may, so for example, when I heard the conversation, at first I thought it was mainly, say it was only focusing about white males, because the conversation was about white males. And then I saw the Anna video, and I'm like, wait, but there's actually like a substantial, like, important part of this here that actually is about the intersectionality that we always talk about. That's very important, right? And I saw it addressed nowhere. I was like, that's...
Well, and I think you're hearing two different levels of the argument. So the problem is if you look at the study and you look at the discussions that happened like on the Young Turks, I never heard white men. What I heard was men. So mask-leaning or mask-presenting people.
Yes.
The problem is that what I then saw Twitter do was turn it into white men. Because I think what happened is that the discourse around it got very toxic because... the immediate assumption is to go to this incredibly bizarre straw man where somebody is, you're trying to in some ways, I think these people were trying to like create the most toxic variation of who these, you know, quote unquote bad men were. And immediately they go to this idea of this stereotypical white man. And I think the issue is that was never actually stated in the actual discussion. And even the original tweet that started this whole fucking thing, I forget by the gentleman who did it, but even his original tweet didn't in any way say white guys. It just said guys. But people inferred it because of racism and because of, I would assume, by in some way undercutting the argument because they didn't like the idea of helping men. they turned it into white men because that would then excuse to some degree people of color. That would be my guess as to what happened, is that they realized, oh, what to just say men broadly means that I might be accidentally engaging in a racism. Amelia, no one is saying that caretaking responsibility for men. What we're saying is the left needs to reach out to men more, because otherwise we leave them open to the right.
I'm not even that can be the whole point. My point is not even that. My point is that it's a societal issue. Like, we have like tons of them.
Mm-hmm.
You can just add it to the list. Okay, like it doesn't need. It's that whole thing when Dave Chappelle, which pissed me off so much, when Dave Chappelle was like, "Oh, they're stealing the place of the trauma of black people." No, dude, it's just another thing we have to deal with. Like, chill out. Like,
but the problem is that I think the issue you're kidding is that you're being reasonable, and they're not.
Thank you. Okay, thank you.
That's really what it comes down to. You're being reasonable, and they are by definition engaging in envy and stolen valor. Dave Chappelle being pissed off about queer people somehow hurting black people's civil rights needs or whatnot.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, one, that's just not there's no way to demonstrate that. That's not true. What it is because another group is having problems as well and has been just as marginalized, it somehow makes people feel like, I honestly have to say this really directly, I feel like sometimes people are really interested in being special and wanting and being part of a very specific group that's being marginalized, and when another marginalized group is having problems, they either jump on because they think they're supposed to, because that's the progressive thing to do, or they push back against it because they feel like their issues aren't as important, because for some reason people have this very reductive sort of scarcity idea that there's only so much energy to go towards problems, when in reality, you're right, it's another thing on the pile. We need to help men and bring them away from the right. We need to make sure that we're helping African Americans. We need to make sure that, like,
and the way to
and we need to have an international coalition of lefties. Yeah. Like, all these things are true.
Well, there's ways to solve these things that aren't entirely separate, right? Like, there are ways where we can do multiple things at once.
Exactly. Yes.
And there are still adults using kid logic. Oh no, there's only one pie, and if we eat half of it, we're only going to have half a pie left, and that's all the energy that we will have to do the whole thing. No, it's not that simple.
Amelia, right? Why does it men need to leave the right? I think that's incredibly reductive. I love you, but the idea that, like, the right is not a cult that tries to steal men over, actively preying on their insecurities, to think that isn't a predatory process, to me is absolutely nonsensical. Yeah. Sorry, popcorn to the floor.
It's fine. I don't want to steal much time, so I'm just going to, regarding that issue specifically, right? I always think back in my life due to several circumstances, right? I could easily be, even though I'm black, I could easily have fallen into one of these pipelines. Mm-hmm. And you're going to ask, like, wait. And it's like, wait, aren't you based? Aren't you black? Don't you listen to a bunch of, like, super progressive Rage Against the Machine music? Like, yes, but that's exactly the point. I had the Rage Against the Machine music. I had an outlet. I had something that I could strive for. So I live right now in another country, not Portugal, right? When I got here, I had a musical instrument. I got into the lesbian punk scene. They were awesome, right? And they taught me a bunch of stuff, and I played live a lot of times. And it was awesome. It was a great time in my life, right? But that was because I was not isolated. Mm-hmm. I had something to do, right? And I look at my life now. If where I am right now was how I got to this country, I totally would have gotten into, I'm not saying like super fascistic or even racist, right? But I would probably have some really bad reactionary opinions about things.
Probably.
Right? Mm-hmm. Like, no one is born a racist. This shit is taught. And by the way, when I say leftist coalition, I don't mean like literally like we're all in like that circle meme, right? I just want us to at least, and so, for example, when someone says, "Hey, we need to protect women's rights," and everyone's like, "Sure, that's it. That's the whole conversation. Like, we don't need to." Well, but what if she's like No, sure, bodily autonomy. Like it's not. It's we know this, and then like some people come in like, oh, but I don't know if like my God allows to that. Like, who cares, dude?
Because people disagree on the problem is because people disagree on the details. They assume the other person isn't a leftist, and so by definition, they don't actually think they're allies. What you're saying is that the micro issues are not the issue. The larger thing is it's fighting fascists.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think you're saying you really would like to be in spaces where you can just hear, hey, including men and things is also good. Is that?
Yeah.
No. Actually, my issue is that this was another opportunity to create this so-called intersectionality, which I don't see happening anywhere.
Got it.
I'm gonna be honest.
I would agree with that.
Yeah, no, that does make sense. Yeah.
And this could have been an easy slam dunk PR-wise, right? Would then actually become rhetorically wise, right? And would just solve itself. Now we actually have to work for it, you know. But it's fine. I don't want to steal much of your time. I just I saw your video. I've been listening to you guys nonstop for like a week now. I think you guys are awesome.
Oh, thank you.
I guess you guys are awesome. Please keep doing the good work. I don't want to waste any more time. Thank you.
No worries.
Thank
you.
you. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Around.
I just want to say, Amelia, like, so there's some problems I have with some of the things you're saying in chat, and again, we're cool to disagree, but like, so you say here, why is it we need to help men and bring them away from the right, and not men need to leave the right? Why is it on us? Well, I don't think it's on you. When you say us, I think that you're doing this thing where you're presuming that it's on the job of like trans femmes to do this. I'm not talking about you specifically. I don't think you're actually equipped to do that work. I would actually say that it just needs to be those who are spearheads of the left, people who are trying to build a movement or a legitimate legitimate connections.
If you're in a position to do this.
Yeah, then I think that it is a responsibility that we try to address everyone's needs. And again, I believe the right is by definition a cult. They prey on emotions, they use manipulation. They are, by definition, by everything I have psychologically to back my position, a cult. And so that's why I think it needs to be us as a larger movement, not you specifically, and not anyone else who doesn't feel capable of doing so. There's lots of people I don't think should be doing this.
Well, one of the big things that we advocate on the channel is doing what you are able to do in the moment. And for some people, that is getting out of bed and taking care of themselves that day. For other people, that is no, they got to go to therapy and they got to do their personal work because their trauma sucks. All right? Like, that is where people are at. And that's okay to be in that space. And there are other people who are like, you know what? I am able to go out to protest and do this. Cool, do it. Right? But you do the things that you're able to. Just because we're talking about an overarching issue doesn't mean that we are saying any one individual should be responsible for this. If we think that an individual should be responsible for it, we will absolutely say that. But, God, Amelia, like, your stuff feels really weird to read during all of this, and feels really shitty as the other masked person over here. Especially because, like, if you scroll up, like, keep going. Like, to be brutally honest, I do resent the notion that in a patriarchy, helping men is women's responsibility.
No one said that.
Right. There's a lot of helping themselves as a group that men could do, but don't because they're still buying into the Faustian bargain of patriarchy, because even though patriarchy hurts them, it also gives them benefits, and most of them still think those benefits are worth the price.
But that's assumed that that's a conscious process, and not by which the system fucks them. Again, if we're going to make the argument that the system inherently fucks other people, like if we're going to say that, okay, crime rates are higher with African Americans because the system tends to put them into poverty, they're tend to forced to live in areas that, like, if we're going to make the material conditions arguments for other groups, why not men? Like, I feel like this is a really this feels like more about the being angry for angry's sake. I don't know why. Again, I'm not going to pick on you. I'm not trying to be mean. I genuinely care about you and think you have good takes a lot of times. But this one I kind of can't go along with.
Yeah, I know we got to hurry up. That one felt really reductive of, like, it doesn't take into account, okay, any of these people that you just count out in one fell swoop in one big statement could be non-binary, could be trans, could be gay or anything else or any other identity, right? Like, you never know. And again, the way that we can solve this doesn't have to be just women's responsibility. We could do this by being, you know what? let's just be friendly to the kids that join our Discord. Like, we get a lot of kids that are lonely in our Discord. We could just be friendly to them. And oh god, we're doing the work just by being nice people. Like, you know, it's not that hard. We don't actually have to pit each other against it to still get the work done.
Well, and I think there's a presumption when I hear these types of arguments, because this is a lot of what was said on Twitter too, is that I saw a lot of people making these arguments because I feel like when they hear that like other people need to do this, I feel like there's a presumption that they like that this is like that when we say that like the left needs to do better, they hear that like individually they need to do that. And I don't think that anyone's making that claim. I think we're talking about left as a movement needs to figure out how to do this. And I don't think marginalized people necessarily have to be the ones to make those movements. There are other people on the left who are, one, more equipped, have the resources and the abilities. What we're just saying is a broad movement, as a political movement, because this isn't a social thing. And it shouldn't be about like, it shouldn't also be about like retributive justice of like, oh, well, fuck them. Like, that's not helpful. If you like this video, please like, comment, and subscribe. Also, consider donating to us. You can support us on our website, transgirltherapist.org. You can also help us on our Patreon, link below, or you can become a member here on YouTube. Thank you so much for watching.